No, the other thing I was thinking we could talk about, we could do. It's a. It would be a little bit of a departure where we like deep dive into a particular subject, but we could talk about the merits of bards in role playing role tabletop role playing games. A lot of people don't really care for the bard class. Think they're useless or far too utility, but I personally find them to be instrumental.
Uh,
Hello and welcome to Mana Biscuit episode number, what is this, 24, I think? Yeah, sounds about right, 24. All right, we got confirmation. I am RJ Voloski. With me, as always, are my co-hosts. Cracking a can
That's
is
right.
Jacob Gamble. How you doing, man?
Rockstar Energy Boom with strawberry.
Hey,
Delicious.
send us money. Send us
Yes,
money.
yes, Rockstar, send me Rockstar.
yeah, just a lifetime supply
Yep,
of
exactly. It's
All right.
delicious. I highly recommend it. Whoever hasn't tried it, it's delicious.
It's not that great. I'm sorry. It's wonderful. Send us money. And lifetime supply of Rockstar for Mr. TJ Rathburn. How you doing, my friend?
Doing quite well. Well, that's a total lie, but my personal life has no bearing on what is going on this show.
That's right. This is show business, baby. This
We're
is
gonna
show
pretend
business.
everything's okay, just like every other.
We smile.
Every other aspect of my existence. Just pretend everything's fine.
That's right.
Everything's good.
we were
I'm
talking
crying and dying on the inside, but everything is good.
We were talking about this earlier. The universe is a cold and uncaring place, so you just surround yourself with distractions from a bunch of unimportant things, and eventually you die.
That's right. By the way, what is that show?
Oh, that's
Horseman.
BoJack Horseman. Yeah, I discovered that this week. It's been around for a little while now. Been recommended to me. I finally became the guy that's recommending it to other people because I just recommended it to these guys. But it's a good show. It's hilarious. It's got a lot more going on than I thought it would. And yeah, what else can I say? You guys have been hanging out a lot this week. Speaking of life sucking.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's all my fault though.
Yeah, it's been fun. We've been hanging out, talking games and other such things, while everything that could possibly go wrong in TJ's personal life has gone wrong. It's
It's okay, just as a.
It's yeah. I was gonna say it's a car issue, right? It's not
my
like
car. Like
yeah.
right, but the car is a metaphor for your life. We've
well,
always
yeah,
established
everything falls apart. The center cannot hold. But yeah, so my car broke. It's been a number of trials and tribulations attempting to get it fixed, and Jay has been very kind with helping me out and also with like marshaling his troops of like just people he knows that have been very selflessly coming out and helping me, and not just them, but a number of my friends and people have been very kind to me, and I'm super
Needy.
grateful.
Oh.
Needy?
Sorry.
I'm super needy, and I'm a very sad man, and you should all just stop listening to me.
That's right. That's why you smile so much. That's why you smile so much.
Dying on the inside.
I'm dead
But
inside.
doctor, I'm Pagliacci.
Oh,
All right, so that was the week, right? Yeah. We're still here though. We're still here.
Okay, yes.
And we're not going to spend as much time on the top because not as much cool happened, but you know, we're here, we're doing the show, we're doing it for you, we're doing it for each other, we're doing it with the love in our
Doing
hearts.
it live.
Doing it live.
Five.
All right. And we had a topic we wanted to talk about. If you've already seen No Particular Order, because spoiler alert, this is going to be released after No Particular Order. We're swapping the
Yes.
episode ordering around, which you've already
Welcome
realized,
to our new time slot.
which will be, I guess, Wednesday or Thursday or something. I don't know.
Thursday.
Yeah,
Thursday.
we do it on Thursday. So.
Except oftentimes I forget on Thursday and it's Friday, but you know, you're watching it, you know what day it is. If you don't, Look at a calendar, for God's sake. Get a hold of your life.
The lighting.
Wow. Something. Did your computer just have a great idea, or?
No, nothing changed.
Okay, fair enough.
But all of a sudden I just flared and I'm like, what? Oh, back to normal.
Lens flares make great movies.
They do.
All right.
Best Star Treks.
Ooh.
Best.
Oh, yeah. Never mind.
But that's. But I'm not even mad though, because that's funny.
Okay, so our topic for this week, RJ.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be what makes a great supervillain. Or no particular order. We're top 5 comic book supervillains, and we had the great idea and thoroughly forethought and well planned and structured, as Mana Biscuit always is. The idea to talk about what makes a great supervillain. Now, the villains that showed up on our list, we had some tentpole villains there, and the reason tentpole villains are tentpole villains is because they have something in them that people respond to, something in them that makes them a great supervillain. So we can start probably by talking about that. The Joker, Magneto, Lex Luthor, these big main villains for three three major big huge franchises: Batman, X-Men, and Superman. So let's start with the Joker. Jay, you talked about him a little bit in your list, but what makes the Joker a great supervillain specifically?
But for him, you touched on actually the reason for that early in the no particular order, and that's that he's the antithesis of Batman. He is the character that is the dark reflection of what the superhero is, and I think that I it's part of what makes him him. Aside from that, it helps that he's just absolutely crazy. It's not the type of villain that I typically gravitate to. That I feel for more than anything else is the ones like Magneto, who are the villains with a cause. Those are the ones that I take to more than anything else, because they're more. I mean, it's a misguided notion, or in the view of the hero, it's a misguided notion. And those guys are the ones that speak to me more than anything else.
Right, and that's well taken, and pretty much a good answer to the first question. Part of what makes a great supervillain is that brings out the character of the hero, but that's only part, right? The other part of what can make a great supervillain is their cause, or this idea that something has been something that was noble in its intent has been bent towards a more nefarious end, right? So I think that's another aspect. I don't know, TJ, do you have any thoughts or anything to...
Well, I think it's almost cliche to say at this point, but it's one of those things that you come across, especially if you write things. One of the primary pieces of advice that you're given in terms of creating villains is that nobody thinks they're the bad guy.
Sure.
Like, you don't go through life thinking, oh, I'm the villain of this story. Everybody is the hero of their story. And that's what makes for some particularly effective villainry, is when even as you're watching what they're doing, and you're watching the horrific things that they're doing, you can understand what's driving them to do this. You may not be able to approve of their methods, but you understand. And that makes for a very effective villain. That's the kind of thing that undermines a part of you as the person who is internalizing the work, whether you're watching a film or you're reading a book or you're reading a comic. It has the touch on you to really resonate and be as effective as possible, which is, exactly what Jay was talking about in terms of, for example, Magneto. The dude that what he's doing, he's not entirely wrong. He's just not doing it in a positive way.
But what
right.
But what about people like the Joker? I mean, we're
sure.
talking about he doesn't. there is no cause. Is he really? I mean, do you really think that he's considers himself the hero of his story and that he's not wrong?
I think
I mean,
I
from the
actually, yeah.
insane aspect, I mean, I'll give you that. But I mean, some of these villains aren't, as cracked as the Joker is. I mean,
Hmm.
The
take
Joker is a really interesting like
Right. So
he's gonna be one of those ones that's more difficult to fit into certain slots. But yes, I think absolutely he doesn't think of himself uh, as necessarily the bad guy.
right.
And even when he does, because there's lots of times when he'll flat out acknowledge like he's the bad guy. That's his point, especially in very much more recent incarnations of the character, where he is focused on being an agent of chaos in the Nolan films. The things that he was doing in the recent comic books with like the death of the family arc, and the bits where he cut off his own face and turned it into a mask. He is all about the destabilization of the status quo. And he wants to prove, and has wanted to do this for a long time, that yeah, he's crazy and he's doing bad things, but that anyone could be him. Like the in the Killing Joke, most famously, it was the concept that anyone after one very bad day could break and be him. And I
hmm
think that his thing, his core cause, if you want to call it that, is a combination of like destruction of the status quo, but mostly in the interest of proving that that he's not he's no more broken than anybody else would be, and that's why he goes after Batman. He's so focused on the Bat because Batman is absolute order, and he wants to prove, because if he can bring down Batman, if he can turn Batman into him, then it proves that he's not responsible for the evil he's done. He's not a bad guy. He's just what happens as a result of the circumstances that have befallen him.
Right. And I think that brings the idea a little bit more into the broader scope, which is what the discussion that we're kind of shooting for here. Specifically, insofar as we've talked a lot about specific supervillains so far, but we're really asking what makes a great supervillain. And a great supervillain is TJ touched on it initially, talking about Magneto and the villains that do not see themselves as a bad guy, have a bent cause. It undermines the worldview of the reader or the viewer, depending on the media form. And I think you see that in all villains. I think Hannibal Lecter is not a comic book villain, obviously, but really represents this idea of someone who's so remarkably intelligent they have divorced themselves completely from societal norms. And I think people find that compelling because they are being challenged. And I think that whether or not they admit it, a lot of people do like to be challenged, and they like to see representations of perhaps extremes in their own worldviews, because everybody's had that moment where they thought just the dark places come to their minds, shall we say.
That's something that I wanted to address as well when what you were saying, that as much as it undermines like the morality of the viewer or the reader, the audience, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
As much as it can undermine the audience, I think that a really effective and truly terrifying villain is somebody that it may be more extreme, but makes you recognize himself in you. Like Hannibal Lecter was a really good one, especially for me. Maybe not everybody has this sort of thing, but like obviously I'm not prepping to go out and eat some people because they were rude. But the concept of like him or your Lex Luthors, the people who are so smart that they have decided that they're beyond normal morality, that is a type of power. That is a power that people don't get the opportunity to have. Uh, that uh, that makes you think, if I were that smart, would I be corrupted in that same way? And that's scary, and that is something that brings a villain up to an even higher like level of greatness, because you go, obviously it's wrong and I wouldn't do it, but if I were put in the circumstances, like if I had that level of intelligence or that level of money or that level of strength or whatever, would I be able to resist those horrible impulses? Like, that is one of those things that I think is really fascinating about
Absolutely. I think that's all coming together now to form a more cohesive and concise answer to the question: what makes a great supervillain is a villain that not just challenges but also makes the audience consider what makes a supervillain. Actually, I mean, it's kind of perhaps a bit tautological there, but
yeah.
the idea that when you see a supervillain, that they are perhaps larger than life, but still believable on some level. Still, there's still that element of them that you can see in yourself. Jay, what do you see of yourself in supervillains?
Oh, it's a for me the TJ did touch on it, and that's the succumbing to the baser of instincts. I want these great and glorious things, and you know what? I have the power to go out and just simply grab them. That for me has always been, what would I do if I could do bad? It does it touches on like you said, it touches on the antithesis of your morality, and that it wow. I'm
There
sitting here and
was
I'm
there
running
was
through the
this.
Joe.
Yeah,
Go
no,
ahead.
I was just gonna say there was this. It's been far too long, but there's this. I want to say it's a Greek myth about a ring that gives invisibility,
Mhm.
or maybe it was one of Plato's dialogues. I can't remember. I don't know. Internet, look it up for me. But it's this ring that grants the power of invisibility, and it's found. I'm almost positive now. It's a morality lesson. I think it was a Plato thing. Sorry. That grants invisibility, and it's found by this shepherd. Just an unassuming everyday guy by Greek standards. Shepherds, like you do. You herd some sheep. That's yeah, and he finds this
Uh,
ring that grants invisibility, and he turns into a complete asshole. And yeah,
Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. I mean, it's one
yes,
of
Yeah.
those things that one of those adages of it is Plato from his Ethics is called the Ring of Gyges.
yes, the ring of Gyges. Actually, yes. Thank you,
Gyges.
thank you,
Gyges
internet.
was Gyges was a Titan, right?
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah, I
Was
just
it?
closed it.
Yeah,
So
I don't think
Yeah.
I think Gyges was the shepherd, but yeah, that's not important. The idea
post it
is
in the
that
comments if you know.
right. The idea is the well, Jay sort of said it, stumbled over his words a little bit. Not like I ever
Yeah.
do that, right? But yeah, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely. He's over there giggling
TJ, you
because he
want to
hasn't
take a
done it
try?
yet.
You want?
Yeah.
What, absolute power corrupts absolutely?
Oh
Yeah, you had
Yes,
plenty of
correct.
yeah.
you had plenty of time to sit and
Yeah,
prepare. I don't want to hear
you
it.
prepared right as soon as. Yeah.
The reason I'm spending time with that though is because we have a clear counterpoint to that in the story of superheroes.
Right, and that's one of the things that makes it interesting, and a sort of like mental exercise where I don't, I don't want to generalize and assume that everybody's like myself, but whenever I have thought about like, oh man, if I had superpowers, what would I do? And I always assumed that I would be a superhero. Like I'm like, yeah, I would go out and I'd save lives and I'd do good and like be great and awesome. And then sometimes I just stop and I'm like, though, if I were Superman, w- would I? Would I go out of my way to just be helpful and kind and like good? Or would I just be like, guess what, folks? I run things now.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where, like, I've thought of the same thing as well. And I've done the exact opposite. I've never, ever considered myself a superhero. Now, granted, I don't consider myself a complete villain. A, because everybody's the hero of their own story. And B, because I wouldn't necessarily do everything bad. But, I'm going to, I'm an ambitious individual. And I am going to, one way or another, get what I want, and given power,
It's just easier.
it's just exactly, it's just easier. And guess what? I run things now, and this is mine.
Yeah.
It's really that simple.
For the
I
record,
really like your planet, guys.
for the record, the counterpoint, since nobody picked up and said it, in case somebody who's watching
With
this
great power comes great responsibility.
There you go. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I can my OCD brain can now rest easy.
Okay, I knew it. I thought it as TJ was talking about it, and right
Yes.
after you had said it, but I really just wasn't gonna go to the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, but like even Spider-Man didn't start with that. It took a tragedy to internalize
Exactly.
in him that it was his responsibility to use the powers that he had been given to help others. And honestly speaking, and this is something I've talked to a lot of people about, I don't think so necessarily, but a lot of my friends have gone, there is no reason why Spider-Man is not a villain. Because you look back at all the awful stuff that happens to him, and it would make a lot of sense if he finally was like, you know what? No, I'm done. I'm done with this.
Yeah.
Time to take what's mine. And I think that's the core of what really makes Spider-Man him. But still, I can see where they're coming from. That if you had that level of power and just kept having the people you love taken from you and everything that you wanted stripped away, just like hammered over and over again by fate, eventually you might just go, you know what? I've tried being a nice guy and it's not working.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, your point about the tragedy is well taken as well, because that's the idea, right? We're trying to get to the core of, at least now, in the turn this discussion is taking, we're trying to get to the core of what separates the heroes from the villains and superpowers, right? And
which is difficult to, like, we were talking initially about supervillains, but it's really difficult to define what makes a great
we kind of got to the answer with that. The first question, that it's what makes a great supervillain is a villain that you can see yourself in, really, at some level.
But the thing is, like, even that isn't necessarily a villain. That can just be like an anti-hero. Like, there's all kinds of different, like, levels of villainy. What it takes to be a supervillain is that and the contrast of the actual superhero. So it's very difficult to discuss what makes a great supervillain without discussing what makes a great superhero, and vice versa, because it's almost a truism in heroics in terms of comics or movies or whatever, that the hero is only as good as the villain, but the villain is also only as good as the hero.
Right. Yeah, it's a dichotomy, it's a duality that you see played out in the characters and their actions. Absolutely. And you also, since we're getting a little tangential here, the idea of the anti-hero itself really came about in response to classical heroic tales, where the hero was always a man of action. The hero was always a man of great physical, or woman in some cases, of great physical prowess, of great deeds. And the anti-hero is Hamlet. The anti-hero is an introspective type who sits there and wonders about whether or not he is, he's doing the right thing. He needs to avenge his father, but can he really still feel good about himself committing murder? But can he feel good about himself not avenging his father? And so he spends 5 acts and 4 hours of stage time agonizing before everybody dies.
It's a good show.
Oh, yeah. Hamlet's
highly recommended.
Hamlet's by far and away my favorite of the Shakespearean plays. A bit cliche on the nose, I don't care. It's the character of Hamlet represents everything that is interesting to me in terms of an anti-hero. So there you go. And The reason I wanted to bring that up though is because a lot of these classical heroes, people like Beowulf, people like oh, I'm blanking on the name. The oldest written.
Beowulf.
Yeah,
No, not English. The oldest written
Gilgamesh.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. These your Gilgameshes, your Hercules. These other heroes of the capital C classics, weren't really all that heroic in terms of this law versus order. They, as I said, they were men of action, but they were also men of death and destruction. And I think that's an interesting aspect to it all as well.
And frequently not even entirely men. Like these were
Right.
precursors of superheroes. They were oftentimes like demigods or something along those lines, where they were more than human.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, I think we covered that topic pretty well. Anybody else have anything they wanted to bring to the table on it?
Not on that. No. Do we want to do our wrap up comments? Talk about YouTube comments.
Right. Yeah. Let's go ahead. You got those ready for us, TJ?
YouTube comments?
We do have some YouTube comments.
All right.
I don't know if they were all on Mana Biscuit though, or if I think most of them were on no particular order.
You know what? Beggars can't be choosers. Let's go.
Last time, if I recall correctly, we discussed no particular order comments on Mana Biscuit.
Right. Yes. And so last week's no particular order, for the record, then, because we recorded it like 3 weeks ago. It was top 5 something, obviously. What was last week's no particular order?
Was it top 5?
It was when you guys were on the couch. Yes, embarrassing gaps in our gamer resume. So, TJ, you got some comments up for us?
I'm pulling them up right now. Everything is terrible.
Everything is terrible. Oh, hey, I just heard me.
There you are. Okay, so from friends of the show, Raven and Michael Malo. Raven was backing me up on one thing where I was confused about the original Half-Life but playing with better graphics, which was the mod called Black Mesa.
Yep. Which is now available as a game in its entirety by Valve. Just came out.
Yep. Raven also pointed out that he has never beaten a single Zelda game. He has put his secret shame up with ours. And then Michael Malo says that RJ, without a doubt, should feel the most shame. And we discussed this.
Yes, we did.
The other day, as to why, which was basically that, a lot of the stuff that Jay and I talked about, like, oh, we didn't play this or this or this, are like kind of deep cut things. And then yours were like foundations of genres.
I've never played a Metroidvania game, period.
Yes.
Either of the two classics that comprise the name of that genre.
Yep.
So yeah. So there we go. Shout out to people that have shouted out to us. Leave more comments, folks.
I have no shame.
He has zero shame.
I have zero shame. I tell you what I have shame for. I have shame for being on this show right now with 2 people who've never played any of the Chrono games. That's what I have shame for.
Oh. Wait. Oh, yeah, that's right. We were...
yeah.
For some reason or another, I was thinking it was you and me as opposed to him and I...
And you know what? Zero interest. Don't even care.
This is a one-upsmanship of 0 F's giving.
And by F's, we mean foxes, not...
Yes.
I was going to take it to, like, the ultimate conclusion and be like, you know how little I care? And then just disconnect from the call.
Which would have been awesome up until you tried to reconnect and we had to...
Right.
It would have been terrible.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you very much for the comments. We do appreciate them. We feed off the comments. We feed off the engagement we get from our audience as well as from each other. We hope that comes through. We love each other. We love you. We love you all. So please help us out. Give us that thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And until next week, for Jacob Gamble, For TJ Rathburn, I am RJ Velosky, and we will see you next week.